All right, so you're interested in getting rid of the old clunky, fat plastic Glock sights that always come with the Glock? Well, how do you do that if you don't want to pay the big bucks to buy a rear sight pusher to push your new sight in? This is how we're going to do that. I'll show you that here today. You will still need a Glock front sight tool, and these are just a few bucks. I'll put a link down below for these sights and for this Glock front sight tool. But what's going on here is there's a little nut right up here at the very front that is so shallow, the head on it is so shallow that you can't really get on it with a socket like you'd use from your tool set because of the chamfer that's on the standard socket. So you'll need one of these. Nothing to it. Get down in there. Loosen that nut up, or that bolt up. Just a whittle guy. Now these plastic sights in the rear, being that plastic is compressible, fits in that dovetail pretty tightly, but also loosely, especially when compared to a metal rear sight. Let's see if I can go. You can move them around by hand. It is a little tight, so I'm going to use this brass hammer, and this is the cheap poor man's way of changing out rear sights. Don't use a steel hammer. Don't use a ball peen hammer. I don't think you'll make it happen with a rubber mallet. It needs to be something soft. So you could use a steel hammer if you had a copper rod or a brass rod to tap on, but you don't want to mark your slide up. You'll see marks when I hit this slide and these sights. But with this brass hammer being softer than the steel rear sight and softer than the steel frame, it's basically just a smudge and you can wipe it right off. So grab it out. See the little marks on there? Pretty much come right off. You're not dealing with a Terran Tactical, it's a Glock. It's a tool, not a safe queen. All right, these sights are very inexpensive compared to other things on the market. I like True Glows and tritium sights and glow-in-the-dark night sights and all that, but if you don't want to spend the money, $100+ generally, on glow-in-the-dark sights or nicer sights, you can get these for under 40 bucks, and I'll put a link down below for those. These are fiber optic. They've got a blacked out rear and a red or green front sight. I don't necessarily really love a blacked out rear sight, but I also like it better than the white on the Glock. I like these sights pretty well. I don't know that I have this particular brand on my 19X. This is going on the 17, of course, but I'd be just about willing to bet that they were made by the same company or made in the same place and just branded differently because they look very, very similar. So of course you've got your little bolt. Get it out. Generally these front sight tools are magnetic, although the magnet's not super good on this, so be careful that you don't drop that. These are serrated, but the serrations go towards your eye. So you set that in. These have a little boss on the back that fits right in that pocket. Set that in and put your bolt on. These do not index perfectly, and I don't know if there is any that do. So you want to make sure your sight is nice and straight with your slide. You can do that by eye. That looks pretty decent. Now go ahead and snug that up. Be mindful that that is a very small thread. You do not want to over tighten it and strip it out. All right, your rear sight, the part that's going to freak some of you guys out, but I didn't say this was the proper way. I said this is the poor man's way of doing it. This has a set screw in these particular sights to help tighten everything up once it's in. But you just put the dovetails together, get it started, and it'll tighten up. Tap away. And of course, you want to get it centered up. Take some time on this and try to compare the gap from this side to the gap on this side. Try to get it centered up just right. And do this by eye, and then check it on a bench at the range and adjust accordingly. For these particular sights, I need a 1/16 Allen driver or Allen key, 16th inch. And you just tighten that set screw up. Again, very, very small threads. Do not over tighten, finger tight. All right, now this is the kind of cool part. Fiber optic melts with a lighter. So you insert whatever color you prefer to use. I'm gonna go with green, that's what I like to use. You put it in and melt your ends, melt one side so you get your flame going. Try to melt it evenly. All right, so we got a nice little bulb there. Now, that goes in your sight, and there's a pocket on the back side of these sights where your fiber optic, that little bulb that we just melted in, can fit into. So I'm gonna go in reverse. I'm gonna try to melt it on the sight and then try to fill that little pocket in. All right, it's in there. Looks pretty decent. I like it. There we go. Looks pretty decent. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.